Hi, and welcome to a new episode of Amplifiz's podcast, the podcast that helps you and your team maximize your potential. Hello to you, Pri de Silva. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
Good. Very happy to have you, Pri. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Sure. Happy to be here.
A lot of people in life science or healthcare have been in the same industry all throughout, and I think it's pretty cool that you are bringing to the industry different perspective and experiences from different sectors as well. Today, you are the digital marketing and commercial excellence leader of a large medical technology company here in APAC. Tell us a bit more about the size of the sales organization that you are covering.
So this is an MNC, so it's a top 10 MedTech company.
Yeah.
And in terms of number of employees, about 50,000 odd employees worldwide. So this region is pretty big. In Asia Pacific is a key region for this company.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's a mix between direct sales and then indirect sales.
So I was in MedTech before, a much smaller organization than yours, but medical device really more than anything. And we were in this region, but also in other parts of the world, having both direct sales and distributors. When we think of sales force effectiveness or commercial excellence, that's clearly one of the area where it is sometimes difficult for the principal company to control and enhance that overall, commercial engine while you are leveraging distributors and so on. So in your role, when you think of commercial excellence, it's primarily with your own subsidiaries and your own teams, or you have a way to influence and contribute to your distributors' go-to-market as well?
So in its current form, normally we would have a little bit more control and influence with the direct sales force. And to some extent, to a lesser degree, but still some amount of influence with the distributors. And usually the spectrum of distributors could be quite large, from, let's call it, dealers that does fulfillment, all the way up to channel partners who manage a vertical for your business. So with the latter, it's a little bit easier to influence than the former. Yeah.
So that creates really some layers of complexity, right, for you to orchestrate this. And so I wanted us to talk about a certain number of best practices and things you have learned over the years and how you drive innovation in your business. But you also have this concept around commercial excellence that I found was fascinating around this Agile Commercial Excellence. Can you tell me a bit more about what it is and how you see this?
Sure. And COVID had an accelerator towards this about 5 years ago when I joined this company. For us, thinking about agile experience is actually, think of it as a mindset shift in which we are trying to break the traditional mold of commercial excellence, where we kind of flip it on its head from individual siloed functions towards cross-functional teams, which focus on experience of specific stakeholders and having a common capability hub that marries all of these specific verticals. And we see that this gives us the sweet spot between having different experiences for each individual stakeholder and bringing the value from one team to the other very quickly. So it marries focus with collaboration in a better way.
Very interesting. And so you talk, there's a lot to unpack here. Let's start with the mindset shift. Because for this team to go from this vertical siloed thinking into this more horizontal experience focus, that on its own is probably a journey, right? So how did you go about this, and how did you make it a reality that was bought in by every stakeholders?
Sure. And here, in terms of specific experiences, so the key word there is experiences. So we would look at an individual experience for sales reps, for marketeers, and for HCP engagement/education. So those are the three verticals. And what we tried to do was change the view of looking at things from product to experience. And the moment we start looking at it from an experience standpoint, then it becomes less about us and it's more about who the stakeholder that we're serving. And to be able to realize this, we would have a cross-functional team managing this experience. And to us, that adds a lot of value, because then it's not an individual skill set on an individual product, trying to deliver something. And what that comes together quite nicely is even when you look at, let's say, even something as SFE. So yes, the sales rep is an important part, but it's marrying the capability of marketing along with sales and then in a way in which you can add value to the HCP. And the beauty of that is then by doing it that way, you are able to then, if you will, connect the dots and it all comes together in a way that is a coherent experience across each of those three.
Any examples that you can?
Sure. The way I would look at that is you would, even within these three, you would try and pick your battles first, right? So at the start, in this area, usually what happens is a sales organization might have a view of we know what is best, and the marketing organization might follow suit. So more often than not, we would start with HCP, and if you are able to, use a specific example on a key product, for example, and we are using that as a way to how can we make sure that the experience of delivering this product training, this product support, and to be able to create the community around the product with HCPs in a coherent way when you're looking at the experience around the HCP. That was, I would say, the starting point. And if you're able to create delight with the HCPs, then it would then create momentum with the other teams to follow suit. Because when the HCPs say, this is great, can we do more? That creates instant credibility. And you start from there. And then usually then the sales reps would then, then be more willing to listen to you because in a way you help the sales reps look good, you help the organization look good, and you're also able to drive the therapy and therefore the business.
Of course.
So usually it helps to start from there.
Right.
And it also helps as being a marketer to be able to help bridge that gap and having, launched products in the past. So it kind of helps to start from there. And then you would move on to the sales organization. And then whether it's a launch of a new product, you could then connect the second dot and help, so if you were to look at other hospitals that you could target or help them grow their business in a way that they haven't thought of before, would be the second way in which you would kind of connect the second dot. And then once we try to kind of understand in terms of what to sell, where to play, then obviously comes the third piece, which is how to win. And then, it's a little bit of a longer journey, I would say, from the marketing organization upskilling standpoint. But that's the way I would usually approach something like this.
Very interesting.
Get folks to get in the room, create that sense of common ground. So we start with HCPs, but then for you, sales organization or sales rep or sales leader, what are some of those pain points? And usually when you start creating that common ground, then it starts to surface up. And more often than not, it helps when you're in a setting like this to not do the whole PowerPoint exchange, and that usually switches people off, as you would have experienced before as well. And instead, get a fresh piece of paper on a drawing board, and everyone puts all that together on a common forum. And usually what happens then is, whether you're within a specific business in the market or you're from another market, what tends to happen is, actually, I have this problem too. And then without anyone pushing it, there's a common sense of realization that the challenges we're going after are similar. And what usually happens then is folks tend to also prioritize what matters to them automatically in that setting. And then suddenly you have a shared sense of strategy. And then that helps us as a team to then prioritize accordingly and divvy up the shared responsibilities, and then we all move together. So that seems to be a practice that seems to work better regardless of which market we're speaking to.
Right. Yeah. I really like this, and I think it's going to be beneficial for a lot of people who are watching this, because a lot of peers of yours across different brands are, telling us how difficult it is to drive change, to get a consensus, and so on. And what you just described is really a very smart way of co-creating with them, making sure that they sit at this table, like really, and contribute, so that they are not feeling that it's coming from whatever other authority out of the blue, but they have generated it, and I think it's a very smart and powerful way to do it. Yeah.
Using data to make decisions in the marketing side is usually almost a vision statement than a reality, I would say. And it's a little bit better in some verticals versus others, don't get me wrong. But could we do better? Absolutely. And the yardstick that I would use is how it's done in FMCG and in startups. In startups, you have no choice. You have every dollar is $1 million because that's the realm that you play in. So you have to leverage data, whether you like it or not, right? And the next game in town is usually FMCG, and FMCG, as we know, is a lot more mature. So getting data, whether it's about ourselves, about the market, about the competitor, it's pretty mature. So that is an area in which it's pretty well disciplined. So you're able to make a lot of data-driven decisions 5 years in advance, 10 years in advance, because you have it with us. In, let's say, pharma and MedTech, let's just say, pharma is a little better, and it's a little bit more evolved, so that helps. But in MedTech specifically, we have a lot of room to go. And one of the reasons for that is it's hard for a MedTech company to go out to, let's say, a data agency and get a true size of the market, because that discipline is not baked in yet. So which means then the onus is left onto the company itself to be able to pull all this together. And that is a significant investment. So then if the trade-off comes between, okay, do you really need to use the data or shall I just hire another sales rep? Usually is the education that we need to do with senior leadership.
So I want to go to the senior leadership engagement in just a second, but sticking to the data topic a bit more. When you look at it at a big macro level, and if I was to compare MedTech and Pharma, but especially Pharma in prescription medicine, right, not OTC, but in the prescription medicine, a lot of folks in the industry are always tortured by the question of how can I prove impact of my engagement with the prescription habit of a doctor. This is not a direct sell. And conversely, in our MedTech world, it's a bit more like nuts and bolts. And at the end of the day, there's a device or a machine that someone is going to buy and so on. So we could argue that normally, on paper, the MedTech would be able to track a bit better that influence and what is the marketing influence revenue versus sales driven versus this versus that. But overall, you feel that, interestingly enough, the MedTech is probably behind Pharma on some of these metrics.
I would say yes, from a slightly different perspective, because here, in terms of the part that you described is in a way closing the loop, and let's say sales versus effort, right? And in terms of territory and so on, and products that you use in the OT, I understand the delta there. Now, the issue that we do have, though, is, let's say, in MedTech is it's really, really hard to get procedural level data from a specific market. So it's hard to pull that together. Some, some markets are a little bit better than others that are reimbursed, but to get a sense of that in, let's say, in pharma, correct, it's a little bit easier. So it's harder to basically get the big picture. And go down from there. It helps to take a step back and look at, so how can you push marketing as a capability in the organization, right? And the thing which I would normally say to folks is digital marketing is marketing that just happens to be digital, right?
Exactly.
So there's no getting around it. So you can't, put some ads on something and on a platform and then hope for the best, right? It doesn't work that way.
And the fact that we still call it digital marketing instead of marketing proves your point, is that we should not even mention digital marketing. It's just marketing in the digital world we live in. Yeah, so.
Correct. So having said that, it's to the stakeholders who we are speaking to, many of them are veteran sales backgrounds. So then it is easy to speak about P&L, but it's a little difficult to speak about marketing. And the way we would look at expressing ourselves to them would be a two-pronged approach to add value. The first one is, can marketing here add value to you for a product launch? So usually in the business that we are in, it's like the launches drive a lot of the incremental growth. So if you were to rally ourselves around a key product and use as a showcase to cut through value across the organization, it's a lot easier. It's a much easier way for us to be able to express buy-in. Then usually what happens then is a lot of the veterans from sales organizations are able to understand that, not be able to pinpoint exactly how you added value, but from the results that are coming in and from the feedback that you're getting on the ground, this really helped me increase reach, help me close, help me increase delight, help me through difficult conversations like objection handling and so on. And once you start connecting the dots and you bring the analytics around that, you're able to say, see, this is the way in which we're able to move the needle. So that's one way which is easier for a C-suite executive, or whether it's in region, in global, or in market, to be able to follow the logic. The second one, which is a little bit harder, is from the market development side. So it's existing business. How can you do more?
Right.
And more often than not, the trade-off decision is you need to change what you're doing now so you can do something new. So which means you have to actually let go of some of the practices you would do today, right? That is usually a harder conversation, right? But it often helps to start with launch excellence first to build credibility, and then look towards, helping further. So for example, you might go to, out of habit, and I've done that too being in sales, out of habit, you might keep going to the same account because they gave me business last year, they'll give me business more this year. But actually down the road, they have a bigger hospital that has opened up. Why don't you go there and see if you can actually do more? So it's helping them shape the mindset towards that. And getting them to do that is a little bit difficult. It actually requires a lot more of top-down approach to be able to realize that. But it helps to start with the launch part first and then look at a tactical plan, which is more market-specific, to be able to then move the needle here.
What is your take on what we see as discussions across the industry, and especially in pharma, around predictive modeling and being able to give very prescriptive guidance to the reps in terms of next best action and things of this sort? At what stage you think the industry is as a whole, and what's your belief here?
So in some ways, pharma has done a better job. So you're able to get a better sense of next best action than we used to before. And the opportunity for pharma is, okay, you've unified the data, you're able to then connect more dots from all the way from prospect to lead and all the way down towards the end, and making sure that you are able to reduce churn. So let's call it the automated way of doing things is pretty okay for many of the pharma companies. Where there's a lot of potential, let's say in pharma, is you're able to then layer on with AI to help even further. So what that would do is, for example, if I'm a junior sales rep, if I'm able to not just say next best action, but next best action steps to follow. So for this doctor who has X preference, it might be more useful to be able to talk about these 2 or 3 messages, which has shown success with their customer in this segment in another hospital. So getting that level of granularity is probably where the next opportunity is, so that we're able to raise the bar for not just the average sales rep, but also for the folks who might need just a little bit more help, especially the junior ones. So how that adds is we're able to shorten the learning curve for at least newer sales reps to begin with.
If you were to look back and reflect on this journey of yours, what would be the advice you would give to your younger self, or to anyone who wants to start a career in marketing, in commercial excellence, in MedTech?
Sure, and younger self is quite a while ago, huh? But
you said it, I didn't.
I would say, regardless of what industry you get into, and you want to more to the commercial side, and we tend to make this mistake. We tend to look at our product and we then think of sell, as you alluded to earlier. And the one piece of advice I would give, as you say, the rock stars of the future, where they feel, I'm going to drive, I got this, I'm going to go, is to actually take a step back for a moment and take the extra step to truly understand your customer. And what do I mean by that? So it's not so much that you can look at a PowerPoint slide and say, okay, this segment is this, these are the habits, this is the single bullet points on the page, and you're done. It's like, no, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, let's say you were to sit across the table between you and I, and you are the customer. It's almost like thinking of you as a human being and having a conversation, and to be able to uncover your hopes, your dreams, your fears, and so on. Mm-hmm. And because I understand more of where you're trying to head to, I would be able to have a strong enough intuition of where I need to get to. And having that intuition early enough in your career actually helps you reason a lot better, whether it's with your boss, whether it is, the president of Asia Pacific, or if it's the CEO. And the logic that you use to be able to describe where you're trying to get to subtly stands out. And that helps put you on a different path versus, task or process-oriented approach right up at the start.
Thank you so much, Pri, for taking the time to be with me today. Thank you so much for staying with us and for subscribing to Amplify's podcast on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and all the other streaming platforms. Thank you and see you soon.